It's an honor to be able to share with you guys on a daily basis my analysis and my insight on the world of basketball. So with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and hop right into this segment. So, game one occurred last night between the Connecticut Sun and the Minnesota Lynx. The game took place in Connecticut. We know that Connecticut has home court advantage in the series, and Connecticut won by a score of 90-60, led by Dewana Bonner, who had 17 points, Alyssa Thomas, who had 15 points, Tiffany Hayes, who had 14 points, and rounded out by Rebecca Allen, who had 15 points as well. Alyssa Thomas had 15 points, 10 assists, and 3 rebounds. And Dewana Bonner also had a double-double with 17 points and 15 rebounds. For Minnesota, they're led by Kayla McBride, who had 16 points in 38 minutes, followed by Nafisa Collier, who had 14 points. While rookies Diamond Miller and Dorka Juhas both struggled from the floor, each of them having 5 points respectively. And if you saw our preview, guys, our coverage for this first round matchup between Minnesota and Connecticut, I discussed why I felt that Minnesota was going to win this series in 3 games, but I also made it very clear that Connecticut was going to win game 1 and win it convincingly. And it's because of the championship experience and pedigree that Connecticut has, despite them losing Jonquel Jones to New York, and also Bree Jones being out for the season due to an Achilles injury. So I fully expected Connecticut to win this series, and I expected Minnesota to struggle in this game, in game 1, because they have a lack of experience. Especially with their rookies Diamond Miller and Dorka Juhas, who are key components of their offensive firepower, of their offensive sort of concept and dynamic. And people have to understand, as rookies or as a younger team, when you come into the playoffs, your thought process is, in terms of how you're going to perform, you're either so naive and so new to the environment that you don't grasp how big the spotlight is. And sometimes that sort of ignorance can have a positive impact. You don't understand the weight of the moment, so you just you're just doing what you normally do. So there's less pressure with the known of the gravitas of the moment. And so because you don't know how big the moment is, you kind of just do what you're doing, and that lack of pressure makes you more comfortable and you're less tight and rigid. However, if you are aware of the moment and how big the moment is and how much pressure there is, that can sometimes stifle you and make you stiff and make you become rigid, and now you're overthinking a lot. And so that's normally the thought process as a young team or as rookies when you're coming into your first playoff series. That's what happens. The pressure either gets to you in that aspect, or you're so new to the moment you can't even fully grasp how much pressure there is, so you're just playing freely how you normally do. And so this Minnesota team had a gut punch, a wake-up call to how different playoff basketball is compared to regular season basketball, and just how it is in the NBA. There's a huge difference, and that shift is sometimes hard to turn on, especially with your first game. And you could tell watching Minnesota play, they couldn't adjust right away to the physicality that Connecticut was able to impose. We talked about how Minnesota is a team that likes to get up and down the court, but we know that just like in the NBA, same in the WNBA, the pace of the game slows down and you start to play more in the half-court set. So now that Minnesota has seen this, I do think they'll be able to adjust, and they'll find ways to get out on the break, or maybe not on a fast break, but maybe be able to initiate secondary breaks by crashing the boards more. This is a team that, in game 1, Connecticut out-rebounded Minnesota by over 15 rebounds. So, Connecticut did a good job of limiting second chance opportunities from Minnesota, and Minnesota is going to now game plan going into the next game. They're going to draw have one extra person crash the boards as opposed to just 2 players. They're going to have 3 people crash the boards at all times, and they're doing that because they want to be able to start the breaks. They want to be able to get second chance opportunities, and I think Minnesota is going to be able to adjust to the physicality and what they saw against Connecticut. And like I said, the offensive firepower in Minnesota, I do think it's going to be able to be successful and get back in rhythm. And we're talking about Nafisa Collier. She only shot 5 for 12 from the field, and we're talking about Nafisa Collier, who is a top 5 player in WNBA. It's very rare that she's going to score 14 points in a playoff game. I think she'll be able to get back on track, knowing that they're going back to Minnesota as well. Nothing has changed about my prediction with this matchup. I still have Minnesota winning in 3 games, and if anything, we're right on schedule with what we expected to happen in this series, with Connecticut winning this game convincingly in Game 1. But it doesn't change my prediction at all. Everything is going how I expected to see, how I expected it to go so far. So, with that being said, guys, let's look at the other WNBA playoff matchup between the Las Vegas Aces and Chicago Sky from Game 1 that also occurred last night. We're gonna cover that in our next segment, guys. So be sure to stick around. We'll be right back.